Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Straight Sports Talk. My name is Bell, and today we're going to be talking about some baseball. Uh, if you can smell that, that is actually spring training. It is in the air, but it's still a little bit, it's far away. It's still a month away, and teams are far from finished, especially in the outfield. Many teams needing outfield help this offseason. Mariners, Braves, Phillies, Red Sox, the list goes on. And I'm going to be talking today about the trade options and which team should go after which player. Now, there are actually more options than what people think. Most people think, oh, there's not many options in the free agency nor on the trade market, which isn't true. Obviously, Michael Bourne is still on the market, and he's a little overvalued, and he may get overpaid. So I would not suggest any teams going after him. But on the trade market, there are actually quite a few outfielders that could be very valuable. Dexter Fowler, who I don't like very much. I think his splits are terrible. I wouldn't go after him. Very useful Michael Kadire. He would be a very good asset on any team. He can improve your lineup at any position. First, second, third, right field, left field. Plays a little bit of center field. Probably not anymore because of his age. You got the young superstar Justin Upton, has potential to have MVP-like numbers, but I think the Diamondbacks are asking for too much. So unless you really, really need a franchise outfielder, I wouldn't overpay for this guy. I would rather overpay for Giancarlo Stanton than Justin Upton. Then you got the franchise veteran Alfonso Soriano. He probably is not going to get too much chatter, which he probably should. He had a very, not a career year, but a career year in retrospect to the past 5 years of his career. You got the newly added Michael Morse to the trade market, and you've got Vernon Wells, who could have a comeback year, could not. He's kind of had a decreasing career right now. He had 11 home runs last year. You got Jacoby Ellsbury, who could become another MVP candidate. He could not. Who knows? The guy did steal 70 bases a couple years ago. Did have that very good year in 2010. But he's a Scott Boras client. I just wouldn't trade for him, especially since he's in his walking year. You got Dayan Viciedo on the Chicago White Sox, who's actually pretty good offensive. He was a rookie last year, got 25 home runs, 78 RBIs. He could be a good addition to left field, even third base, which he has played before. And then you do have Giancarlo Stanton. We all know the guy's a superstar. He has the capability to hit 40, 50 home runs even, but he's not on the market. He's a cheap option for the Marlins, and that's what they love, and they're just not going to trade him unless you trade your whole minor league system and the superstars on your major league team. It's not going to happen. Then you got Jason Kubel, who kind of had a breakout season, but I don't think he's going to put those stats up again. I mean, 30 home runs, 90 RBIs. I think it was almost a lucky season, in my opinion. If you think he'll repeat, then obviously he's a very good trade option. Doubtful that he's traded just because Justin Upton's relationship with the Diamondbacks is in the toilet and they want to get him out of there as soon as possible. And lastly, you got Andre Ethier from the Dodgers, who I doubt will be traded unless they think about going after Michael Bourne, which again is doubtful as well. So those are the options. Now let's go over the teams that need an outfielder. Now obviously the Mariners recently tried to get Justin Upton when he declined it. Mariners fans are now thinking, oh, what do we do now? Well, a player that used to be on their team, Michael Morse, he's available, and he could be a pretty good addition, I have to say. He can play right field, which is good because they have too many left fielders with Jason Bay and Ibanez. Obviously, they could use another center fielder. Michael Kadire could be a good addition. The Rockies are asking for too much for that, and I wouldn't overpay for Michael Kadire. He's not really a guy that's worth many prospects. So, yeah, my solution for the Mariners is getting Morse. Alfonso Soriano wouldn't work because he only plays left field. And there's nobody else who can really play right field except for Justin Upton, who's not on the market. Maybe Andre Ethier, who knows? They were talking to the Dodgers about Andre Ethier, but he's not on the trade market, so that's not going to work out. So Morse is their best bet. Now the Rangers are an interesting story. They've been rumored with Justin Upton for the past couple of months, and it seems they just do not want to give up what the Diamondbacks are asking for, which I don't blame them because the Diamondbacks are asking just for way too much. Not too much, because obviously Upton is a great player, but they're asking for a lot. And I don't blame the Rangers for keeping their prospects and sticking to their guns and saying, no, we're going to stay with these young guys, Mike Holt, those guys, and see what we have here. My solution if they don't get Upton, obviously, is Mike Morse is another option. He's probably the best option for most teams right now, and he would work well in that outfield. Nobody else really on here that could ring a bell. Nobody really. I mean, Vernon Wells maybe, but they're in the same division. I doubt that they're going to trade to the Angels for Vernon Wells. Michael Morse is probably the best bet. Plus, they got a lot of relief prospects, so they could use those prospects and try to get Michael Morse. That's all it's going to take for him, because the Nationals are only asking for left-hand reliever and a few prospects, or just a few prospects in the higher range. Now let's go over the AL Central. Now the only teams that are really looking for an outfield help are the Indians. Now the Indians are actually a very good team, and most people don't actually realize this because they got Carlos Santana, they got Mark Reynolds, they got Strudel Cabrera, they got Nick Swisher. I mean, they got some pretty good players, Drew Stubbs, and I think they could be a favorite to win the AL Central if they make one or two more additions. The rotation is solid, the bullpen is alright, and the lineup can be very good if they make one or two more additions. Now, obviously, they've been saying with the payroll that they're not going to go high and mighty with spending money, which I don't blame them. But one or two very good additions like Michael Morse, Justin Upton, or Alfonso Soriano could solve this pretty quickly. If they get Justin Upton, which they have been rumored in, then I think they're pretty much set. But, I doubt that they get Justin Upton. I think, again, the Diamondbacks are asking for too much. I think the Braves will probably get Justin Upton, just because they got BJ as well. But, obviously, the Indians, again, Michael Morse. Michael Morse is probably the most attractive outfielder on the market right now. I suggest that they probably try and get him. Now, my interesting thought is, if they get Michael Morse, should they try to get another outfielder, move Michael Morse to first, move Mark Reynolds to third, and then that's a pretty scary lineup if you think about it. You think if they got anybody on this list, Alfonso Soriano, he's a decent outfielder, and he'll only be on the team for 2 years, maybe even one if you decide to trade him off. That's a really scary lineup if you think about it. You got Michael Morse, who could hit you 30 home runs at first. You got Mark Reynolds, who could hit you anything from 30 to 40 home runs at third. You got Strudel Cabrera. You've got Alfonso Soriano in left. You got Drew Stubbs in center field. And you got Nick Swisher in right with Carlos Santana. And then the rotation is pretty solid. And then they got their good closer. That's a pretty scary team. And I would put my money on them winning the division if they make two good additions. That's what it comes down to. So, the Indians could be a very good team. And it all depends on what they do. Michael Morse, if they just get Michael Morse, that's pretty good that he's got a solid lineup. If they get two guys, then I pick them as favorites AL Central. You hear from me first. Doubtful that they actually make two additions, but you never know. People make big splashes. Take Phillies with Cliff Lee and how well he did that year, and things happen. So why don't we move on to the AL East? And they're almost every team except for the Blue Jays, who, yeah, they already fixed their outfield. The Yankees, the Red Sox, the Orioles, and the Rays, they're all looking for outfield options. Now, people that really need them, I don't think the Yankees really need an outfield option. I think they're pretty set in their outfield. I don't think they really need it. My question is, now, I'm not sure if A-Rod's supposed to be coming back later this season. I think he is supposed to. What do you do with your outfielder when Alex Rodriguez comes back? Because people are saying with Michael Morse, you put him in left field. Well, Brett Gardner, I mean, what are you going to do with him? Are you going to platoon the two? Then that's a waste of $7 million on Morse. And you can't DH him because when A-Rod comes back, you're going to either put A-Rod or Euclid at the DH spot. So, honestly, unless you're putting Gardner in AAA or you're thinking of trading somebody, like Gardner obviously, to another team, I don't think it's really worth getting another outfielder. I think they're okay with their roster, and trust me, I'm a Phillies fan. I do not like the Yankees, but, you know, that team's pretty dang good. So why don't we move over to the Red Sox? The Red Sox are set in center field, obviously, with Jacoby Ellsbury, and then right field or left field with Shane Victorino. Victorino used to be a center fielder, now is converted to a left fielder or right fielder. Probably a left fielder because his arm is not too good. Has had a couple gold gloves at center field. Obviously, guy they would want would probably be Mike Morse again. Again, Alfonso Soriano. I'm high on Alfonso Soriano. You guys don't understand. He's a very viable option. He'll only cost $5 million a year for the next 2 years. And if you don't like him after the first year, you can trade him and get some prospects back. So, nothing to lose, really. So, Mike Morse, Alfonso Soriano, those guys are probably going to be the options that the Red Sox would look at if they even look at people. Michael Kadire, again, is another option. Probably going to cost too much. Wouldn't suggest going after him. On to the Orioles. The Orioles, their outfield is actually kind of in the middle. Adam Jones, great center fielder. Then they got Nick Markakis. I apologize if I mispronounce that. I'm not very good at pronunciations. And then they also have Matt Diaz in left field, who could be obviously an option. I wouldn't go with him. Again, Mike Morse, top guy on the trade market. Even Alfonso Soriano, again, sorry, he's a good option. But Mike Morse is basically the only option for most of these guys. You know, all the other people really don't fit the bill for the specific teams. They're good players, but Jason Kubel, he's not going to get traded because then they won't have enough outfielders. Andre Ethier's not going to get traded, as I've explained before. So, Mike Morse, Alfonso Soriano, maybe Michael Kadire, even Dan Viciedo. They're still in the same American League, but, you know, stuff happens. It's not like they're in the same division, so I'm not too worried about that. So, yeah, Morse or Soriano, maybe even Viciedo. On to the Rays. Now, the Rays, they're kind of interesting. They've been rumored with Michael Morse for a while now, and I think they'll get Michael Morse. And I don't blame them because he's probably the best option out there for them, and that's who I suggest. That's the only person I really have to suggest for them. Jason Kubel, maybe. I don't think so. Again, I don't really like Jason Kubel. He's not a 30 home run guy. He's more of a 22 home run guy, maybe 70-yard guy, something around there. Not really high on Jason Kubel. I apologize to any Diamondback fans. I know you guys like your players, obviously. Who doesn't like their players? So, now we go to the NL East. Yay, my favorite division. Phillies fan here, obviously. I'm going to start off with the Phillies. A couple options for the Phillies. I don't really see them going after anybody, actually. But if they do, Alfonso Soriano, top of my list. Michael Kadire is probably the second. They've actually had more talks about Michael Kadire. Yeah, the Rockies are just asking for too much. My source, who is in the Phillies organization, is just saying, they're asking for way too much, and they would have rather just paid him the money last offseason. Another guy is obviously David Viciedo. That's another interesting guy. Nobody's really talked about him, and I think he could help any team, really. 25 years old. Great addition for any team, really. So, those are the people. Soriano, Kadire, Viciedo. Those are the only guys I can see the Phillies really going after. And I really suggest they go after Alfonso Soriano. Even though he only plays left field, they're not going to get Morse. He's on the Nationals. The Nationals would not even think about giving Michael Morse to the Phillies unless the Phillies are giving them ridiculous amount of prospects. Off to the Braves. The Braves, right here, if they get a decent left fielder or third baseman, their lineup is scary. It's really scary. They got B.J. Upton in center field. I know a lot of people say he's overrated, but the guy will give you overall all-around stats except for batting average. He's going to get you anything from 25, maybe 30 home runs on a very good year. Get you a good amount of stolen bases, very good defensively. Good guy to pick up. Is he worth the money he got? Probably not. But then they got Jason Hayward in right field. They got Freddie Freeman, Dan Uggla, Adrell Simmons. And then they're hoping they can put Martin Prado at third base and then put another guy in left field. Now, they're not going to get Michael Morse. This is who I'm saying the Braves need to get. Justin Upton, obviously, is going to cost a lot of prospects, and I think they're going to give in and get Justin Upton, sadly. And I don't think they should do that. I think they should wait it out, wait another 1 or 2 years for the free agent market to free up. I don't know who's on the market next year or the year after, but I think it's a lot better than what this year's was. So, Alfonso Soriano, again, terrible fielder, or not really terrible, but normal. He's not going to be a Gold Glove left fielder, but when you really see any. He's going to hit you a decent amount of home runs. He'll probably hit you 26 home runs, maybe 20 on a bad year. He's never hit under 20 home runs in the last 10 years. So he's definitely going to be a decent option. I think he'd be perfect for the Braves. And I think if they make that addition, they could potentially beat the Nationals and the Phillies to win the division. This would fulfill their lineup, and they'd be a pretty scary team. So lastly, I'm going to kind of end it on a soft note, which you really shouldn't do, but the New York Mets, disaster right now, and they're looking at players. They want an outfielder. David Viciedo, again, he's a good guy to get, but they actually are looking at Giancarlo Stanton and Justin Upton. I don't think they have enough prospects to get Justin Upton, surprisingly, nor should they give up prospects for Justin Upton. Giancarlo Stanton is probably not available, but if they could get him, go right ahead. I think that would be a great addition for the Mets. I think that would probably be the smartest move that they've done in a while. Although that Carlos Beltran deal did work out, didn't it? So that really wraps up everything I have to say today, guys. Thank you for listening, and I hope you guys like what I had to say. If you didn't, go ahead and leave something on the comments below. Tell me what you guys think your team should do. And if there's somebody else that I didn't name, an outfielder or even an infielder, whatever your team needs, go ahead and tell us. I'll even probably put in the description if we need to, because I forget things. So thank you all for listening. Hope you have a great day, and happy spring training.